Hello, patrons. Welcome to our first Q&A session. You all have submitted questions for us to answer, and we will do our best to answer them. Yeah.
A note of caution, the questions that we have and the answers may contain spoilers for the first 2 episodes of Chapter 1. So if you haven't caught up that far yet, maybe go back, make sure you've listened to the first 2 episodes, and then catch up with us afterwards.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, my name is Taylor. I am the DM and co-founder of the Tantalus Tales.
And I'm Colleen, also co-founder and writer.
So, what do we got?
All right, so the first question from one of our patrons is, what would have happened if the party fed those hungry wolves from episode 1?
Huh. Well, I would love to say that that would have changed the course of the entire story. But really, it would have just skipped a fight. Richard probably wouldn't have hurt himself so much.
Are you pretty open to kind of that creative problem solving where the players might, instead of using combat, find some other way to solve their problem?
Oh, hell yes. If my players can find a way around the puzzles I've given them without just, like, whittling away a creature's HP or something, I am all for that.
All right, so our next patron question is, what inspired characters like Dewey that make references to real-world things?
Oh, Dewey. Dewey's pretty good. I enjoyed the hell out of Dewey. I believe he came about, we were playing Divinity, and there's a character in Divinity who is a complete orc character, but she's a librarian, but she's, like, super intelligent for an orc, and I think we're like, what if this creature had been around books for so long but kind of picked up things, but still wasn't super intelligent? And I mean, Dewey just screams librarian.
We really like the idea of, in that scene where whoever the librarian is going to be steps out from behind the bookshelves, for it to be something surprising, so something that you wouldn't really expect for the librarian. So we thought kind of the big kind of imposing Dewey would be a bit of a surprise for the players.
I was completely convinced that they were going to attack Dewey when he first came around the corner. But one of my favorite points so far in the recorded stuff is Bakar just yelling, "I say hello!" Big burly fighter just like, "Oh, hi!" I should have expected just as much.
Our next question from a patron is, what has been the biggest challenge in terms of predicting how players will act?
Oh, well, it hasn't been too much of an issue. I think the only time we've come across that being too much of an issue, there's a point in episode 2 where they figure out that the wife has been taken away to the north, and they're like, let's just go do it. And I kind of had to step in with Richard to get them to kind of loop back. There was some more story to do in town before running off to the north. But they are incredibly attentive to the fact that we're trying to tell a story here, and if there's a subtle suggestion to do something else, they're like, all right, sure, because they know we're all in it for the story in this, really. So, yeah.
All right. Next question is, what is your personal favorite character build?
Oh, without a doubt, the Tiefling Rogue. That was my first character build, and when we started doing D&D down here, and I just fell in love with it. The demonic thief, of course. What about you?
I pretty much always, in tabletop games, video games, whatever, tend towards the caster types.
Mm-hmm.
In 5th edition, I especially love the warlocks. I don't think I have a strong preference for any particular race. I like to stray away from the more common ones, your humans, your elves, and do something a little more unique, like a tabaxi or maybe a homebrew type of race to make things a little more interesting.
Like your tabaxi rogue that didn't like capitalism?
Yep. That was definitely a fun one to roleplay. All right. Our next question is, how long have you been playing Dungeons and Dragons?
Well, I fiddled around with it for a bit when I was younger, but didn't really get into it until like my mid-20s. The first time really getting back into it was where that campaign that we played with Justin and company, including Connor Waddell, the guy who plays T in our podcast. It was the first time I really got back into D&D heavily. So, and it's just been wonderful ever since. I know you used to play in like high school.
I didn't play a whole lot in high school, just a couple of sessions. Played more in college. I was in a Dungeons and Dragons club, so played a weekly campaign for a couple of years then, in 3.5. Then, about a year ago or so, we started playing our campaign down here, and that lasted about a year before we started this new campaign.
Yeah.
All right. Next question for you is, do you prefer playing or being the dungeon master?
Oh, well, considering this podcast is my first time DMing, figure why not jump in completely into the deep end on things. I've enjoyed it. I enjoy role-playing as well, but I think I am becoming more a fan of DMing just because it's the taking the helm and creating an entire world and deciding what you throw at your players and what just fantasy realm you create is a lot of fun, and it's been a real blast delving into doing more voices and getting things involved and stuff. I know you've DM'd before for a one-off we did in our last campaign. Do you have a preference?
Yeah, I don't have a preference for one or the other. A lot of times once you start DMing, it's really hard to kind of get out of that role. But I definitely prefer to have a balance between the two. I think it's fun to switch back and forth, sometimes be the one kind of running the story and doing a lot of that prep work, and then other times just kind of letting the DM run the adventure and seeing where it takes you.
Yeah. Ideally, ideally, everyone should try it at least once.
Really gives you appreciation for the amount of work that goes into building a world and everything instead of just showing up and kind of getting that immersive experience.
Oh, for sure. I know it's definitely something that I've enjoyed doing, and definitely makes me appreciate being a player more, and maybe not being a complete murder hobo. Because hey, a surprising amount of work goes into making that NPC you just killed.
All right. Our final question is: can you give us a hint about what's in store in the next few episodes?
Oh. Well, as of recording this, I believe there are a couple more episodes left in Chapter 1 of our story. In fact, just today, as of recording this, we also recorded the first episode of Chapter 2. So I'm excited to see that when those go out. I've absolutely loved Chapter 1. It has been a blast to write and record and everything. I'm really excited to get to Chapter 2 because that's kind of where the big picture starts to take shape in our story, and I hope you all end up enjoying it as well. I don't want to give away too many things.
Yeah, you should probably stop before you spoil too much.
Yeah, but definitely keep an eye on the horizons. It's going to be...
Yeah, stick around for Chapter 2. Some big stuff starts to happen.
So before we go, I suppose, thank you again to our patrons. You sharing our stuff and getting the word out really helps us. And I mean, really, if it wasn't for you people, we'd just be speaking into an empty void.
We love hearing from you about the things that you liked, what you thought was funny. Really, any feedback is good to hear, just to know that people appreciate the work that goes into it.
For sure. But yeah, stick around. We'll be doing a Q&A video every month now.
Yep.
So send in your questions.
You can send those to us at thetantalustales@gmail.com.
Yes. Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you again. We'll have this by the next Q&A. Hopefully Chapter 1 will be done, I believe.
Yes, so next month we'll definitely be on to Chapter 2, so we'll have hopefully a lot more material for you to ask questions about. Yeah. So we'll see you next month.
Bye.
Bye.
Click the button.